Hi everyone, my name is Aaron Michael Kosiba. I'm the Eufora Color Technical Director, and I'm excited today with my model Whitney to take you through Eufora Color Glossing. Eufora Color Glossing is a great tool to add tone, vibrancy, and shine back into the hair. There's three actually really different ways that you can utilize color glossing as a tool behind the chair. One of the first ways is one of my favorite. For any of your guests that come in that are newly starting to turn gray, color glossing is a great way to introduce blending that gray away, adding some shine and vibrancy to the rest of their hair that may have dulled out a little bit. The second way, maybe think of at the end of the summer. They've been out in the sun a lot, the environment has beaten up their hair, it may have taken away some of the vibrancy or lightened the ends beyond where they like it. Color glossing is a great way to add that richness and depth back into their hair. Tons of fun shine and just a beautiful overall vibrancy. The last way is also probably one of the most important. The last way that you can use color glossing is to really introduce a new guest that may be apprehensive or a little bit nervous about getting color, to allow you to try something on their hair, because color glossing is great for putting that tone in or actually changing the reflection, maybe adding a little fun, rich tone to their hair that they haven't seen before. So those are three great ways that you can utilize color glossing. Anytime you're doing a color service is do a complete and full guest consultation and diagnose the hair. During the diagnosing the hair, what you're paying attention to are three main things. The first and most important is texture. You really want to analyze texture and break the texture of the hair down. Is it fine hair? Is it more normal, or is it porous? Depending on those three different textures, your color might take slightly different and you'll get a little bit of a different end result. The second thing to keep in mind is the porosity. Depending on that level of porosity in the hair, it also could absorb the hair slightly different. So really pay attention to porosity. And the last thing to pay attention to is you and your guest's desired end result. That's kind of our three main focus when doing a color gloss. What we like to utilize for a color gloss is Eufora Color's No Ammonia color. We love our No Ammonia color because it won't create any lift or major demarcation in the hair. How we utilize it, we work with either a 7 or a 10 volume developer. Those are our two different developers of choice. And how you decide which of those two to work with is really based on what your desired end result, as I said, breaks down to. Your 7 volume is going to give you incredible shine, vibrancy, and add tone to the hair, but it's a little bit more of a slightly transparent end result. You can still kind of have it in a sheer see-through way. Your other option is going with a 10 volume. The 10 volume is going to give you a little bit of a heavier, richer, deeper deposit. It might last a slight amount of time longer. It has a little bit more of a durability to it. Both are going to really infuse incredible shine and vibrancy into the hair. So those are our two main options of doing that. When using either a 7 or 10 volume, your mixing ratio is going to be 1 part color to 2 parts developer, and your processing time is going to be up to 20 minutes. And the reason we give you that flexibility is it kind of varies, especially, as I said, if it's one of those new guests who's maybe nervous about getting color. Leaving it on 5 or 10 minutes will put a really soft tone to the hair, but it'll really wash away a little bit on the quicker side, not giving them a heavy commitment. So today we're going to be working on our model Whitney. Whitney came to us with a natural level 6 to 7 base. We actually pulled out swatches and we're matching up swatches on her new growth. And she wasn't quite a 6, but she wasn't quite as light as a 7. So we analyzed that as our first part of where we started. Then we kind of broke the hair down and was really checking out her midshaft and her ends. Her midshaft jumps because she is previously colored, and her midshaft moves to a cosmetically colored level 5. And because she has been out in the sun here in sunny California, her ends are sitting right about a true 7. So our goal with our color gloss on Whitney is to really balance her hair out, add a lot of shine and reflection. We're going to be doing a real fun, quick, easy add-on color placement to add a little bit of movement and dimension with the light. And she also, I want to make sure I mention, she does have gray hair. She only has a little bit. She's about 5 to 8%, so it's really not something that's a major concern. And she said she doesn't mind when it kind of gets a little bit of that highlighted tone. which is also great, as we said, having that blending away the beginning signs of gray. So we'll also be doing that today, along with really richening up and refreshing the rest of her hair. So as I mentioned, one of the first things that we're going to start doing is we're going to do a nice, fun, but quick foil placement on her. Our goal with the placement is I want to make sure that along with this color gloss, that these highlights that we place in her hair are very low maintenance for her. I don't want them in any way that she's going to have to touch them up in 4 weeks or 8 weeks. I want something that'll grow out, but still give movement to our overall look. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a Eufora color technique on her hair called the Kite. And the Kite is nothing more than putting a diamond on the top of the head, and then we're going to place foils following that diamond. One of the things that we want to keep in mind when working on this is really, as we started diagnosing earlier, we're really looking at the quantity of hair your guest has. And it's funny to say, but you also want to pay attention to their head size. Anytime that you're putting a foil placement on and you want the highlights to be natural and kind of blended and soft, really paying attention to head size will guarantee that we pick out the proper size diamond to put on her head. So let's get started. What we did is we found her natural part line. She parts slightly off to the left away from her center part. And because, as we were talking about earlier, we were analyzing how her hair falls, we're actually going to start our diamond pattern about an inch or approximately an inch off of her hairline, because that will give me more space in the front of her hair to actually place some foils in. So here we go. So as I said, we're going to go approximately an inch back. And I'm going to put the point of my comb where I want to start. I'm going to use my finger for placement where I'm deciding. Remember I said earlier, we're going to decide, because of the size of her head and the quantity of her hair, how big of a placement we're going to make. So I'm going to point here where I want my triangle to start. And I'm going to line back, part back, and I can get a nice clean parting and go exactly where I want it to be. From there, I'm going to hold onto that hair, and I'm going to place one of my fingers where that point was. And now I'm going to move to the drop crown. Drop crown is slightly below the round of the head, kind of in the center of the crown heading to the back. I'm going to go to the center, find that, get my next piece. I'm going to continue that all the way around the head, using my finger as a guide to where I'm going to end up. I'm now going to visually look where this point goes to this point on the top of the head, find my line, come back. One more time and we'll be done with the section. Finger holds, my point. So now I'm going to comb all of the hair up because I kind of want to check out just to make sure that it's even and balanced. And Whitney, can you tilt your head forward, please? You can see we have a nice diamond on the top of her head. Lean back. Something to think about when you're doing these kind of diamond placements on the head. The shorter or longer that either of your sides are, the more dramatic it's going to be. So if I make my lines for the front of the diamond longer, I'm going to have more bolder pieces around the front. If I make it longer in the back, then I'm going to have more dramatic color placement or coverage throughout the back. But for Whitney, I'm doing a nice, balanced, even diamond. That's the shape that we're going to be working on. So I'm going to isolate this up out of her hair, put my comb down. Flip it up out of the way. So here we go. We're going to be using diagonal backs away from her face. We're going to be finding them fall around her face this way, a little further, and the same thing this way. We're going to be coming and cascading down the head. So it's time to mix up the product that we're going to work with. So if you notice, we're going to be mixing up Eufora Colors Aloe Pods. What's great about the Aloe Pods is this great, easy, pre-measured, convenient pack. And there's absolutely no issue of dust. So what we do is we take our Aloe Pod, turn our scale on, and drop our Aloe Pod in the scale. The Aloe Pods are pre-measured at 10 grams, and the mixing ratio, 1 pod, which is 10 grams, to 20 grams of developer. We're choosing to go with a 10 volume developer today. So we're going to add that in. As you notice, it's already starting to break down on the developer. I love to use my handy whisk. You can see it dissolve and break apart and become a nice creamy consistency. Okay, so we're going to start our first section on the front. what we're going to start off with is we're going to take a diagonal back slice, thin enough that you can see a piece of newspaper through. The idea is anytime you're doing highlighting, you want to make sure your section is thin enough that you can always get even saturation. Now off of the slice, you get to really decide how you want to create your texture and pattern. I'm going to go in with a bit of a chunkier weave, and I'm going to alternate it as I go down. Because she has a little bit of demarcation, and I want this to have a little bit of a more natural grown out look, I'm going to stay off of her natural new growth. I'm going to start about 1.5 inches to 2 inches from the edge of the foil, and I'm going to take the brush sideways, and I'm going to slowly work it up so it's very natural to the edge of her demarcation of her previous color. Once it's locked in, reload my brush with a bit of color. I'm going to put my fingers on to hold the hair into place, work it down to make sure it's nice and applied, and then pick up the ends and fold them in. That's our first foil. I'm going to move down approximately 1/2 to 1/4 inch. Take a slice, remove that out of the way as a spacer between the foils. Take my next slice, and since I did 3 chunky weaves here, I'm going to bricklay, and I'm going to come down and do 2 off center from where those are, so it kind of cascades as it moves. Once again, I'm keeping in mind to stay off the edge of my foil and away from where my demarcation is. And we're going to do one more here. Dropping down just a little ways for some space. Isolate that out of the way. And my last one is also going to fall around her hairline now, so it'll give her a nice accent as we put the gloss over top. Since we did 3, 2, we're going to go back to 3 again. We're going to be careful to move any hair around her face out of the way so she's comfortable. And we're going to drop that section down. We're going to move to the other front side. Don't get dizzy, Whitney. All right, same idea. We're going to start by taking a slice. We're going to follow the same idea. We're going to go with 3. All right, so we're going to spin Whitney back around again. We're going to return to the back section. So even though I did 3 going forward, there's no rules that say you can only do 3 in the back. And I'm going to space these out a slight bit more, and I'm going to drop them down and probably do 4 because I'm going to want to see a little bit more of that color dropping underneath as her hair moves around. Because part of my hope with this color gloss going over top of this is it's going to have, as she moves and hits the light, there'll be all these beautiful pieces that kind of pop out and give it some internal dimension. Same idea. I'm going to space back a little bit from the other foil, if we can see. So I'm not going to butt it right up. I'm going to slide back just maybe a 1/4 of an inch, just so it has a little room to move. And on top here, I'm going to start off actually going with a 2 and then a 3. I'm going to make them a little bit bolder and a little bit chunkier. I'm going to space down again, following my same line, and just a little further. Because that was a 2, here comes our 3. As you can see, we're about lined up where we stopped at in the front section. So the next one will be our 4th piece underneath here, and that'll give us more dimension underneath. So we started off with a spacing of 2, then a 3. I'm going to come back to a 2, a little chunkier again, just like that. For anyone having issues with putting foils in the hair, one of the great things that I like to do is we always know no matter what, even if I'm spacing my color out, it's always good to have a nice tight seal on your foil. So once you place your foil on your comb, I like to put the point of my comb at my starting point and wrap it around as I'm pulling down. And you can see that allows it to get in nice and tight. And now we're just going to repeat the same thing on that last bottom side. So now that Whitney is fully applied, what we're going to do next is we're going to start processing her. We're going to process her for starting off with 15 minutes, and we'll take a look and see how light we've gotten, if it's our desired result. It might take another 5 to 10 minutes beyond that, so that's what we're going to start off with. So we're going to let her process, and we'll come back to you once her highlights are done. Okay, so Whitney and I are back. We processed her for 20 minutes. She lifted our desired level, and what that was for us is I wanted to lift her to a level 7 orange so that there's still some underlying pigment left in the hair to help support this color gloss that we're going to lay on top. So what we're going to do now is we're going to be mixing up our Eufora color gloss. The colors that we've decided to work with are, as I said earlier, our Eufora color No Ammonia, and we're going to stay at a level 4 because we really want to take her back down and add this real shiny, rich, vibrant color. And we're going to go with a level 4.73. What that indicates for us is it is a medium brown, blue, violet, gold. We're also going to mix that with a 4.62. That is also a medium brown, red, violet. One of the things that I came up with when talking with Whitney during our consultation is she said she really looks her best and feels her best when she has cooler violet red tones to her hair. So we actually altered what we were originally thinking to kind of enhance that for her. We're also going to add 1/2 gram of our creative pigment purple. That's going to add some depth and a little bit of an internal reflection and vibrancy to the rest of the color. So why don't you come with me and we're going to go mix up. So here at Eufora, we believe in systems and accuracy. So what that means is we strongly believe in weighing our color and weighing it by the gram. What you do is you put your bowl on the scale, turn it on, that clears it out and balances the weight. We're going to take our first color. As I said, we're going to be working with a 4.73. That is a medium brown, and the 7.3 indicates a blue, violet, gold. It actually is this really rich, beautiful, cool chocolate. That is going to be the strongest base of our color we're using today. We're going to work with, for the color gloss, a total of 50 working grams of color. 35 grams of it is going to be our 4.73. The second color we're going to mix up is our 4.62. That's also a medium brown, red, violet. That's going to be 15 grams of our formula. Then the creative pigment I talked about is our purple creative pigment, and we're going to use 1/2 gram. One of the easiest ways to do that when you're using intensifiers or creative pigments to guarantee that you don't overmix is squeeze out the amount of color that you want, pull it on the edge of your comb, and mix it in the color. That kind of guarantees you're not going to accidentally overdrop. Before I put my developer in, I'm going to take my handy whisk and pre-blend my color. And now I add my developer. We talked about earlier the mixing ratio. So once again, it's going to be 1 part color, so that's 50 grams, to 2 parts developer. And our developer now will be 100 grams. And we are working with a 10 volume developer. We see the nice creamy consistency. Okay, now we're going to start applying. So working on Whitney, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working on a central part, going to the nape of her neck, separating her head in half. From there, we're going to start by applying, pulling our color from the edge of the bowl. We're going to start by laying her color on her new growth. When we're doing a traditional color application, we always want to typically make sure that we're just laying color heavily on just the regrowth and we're not overbrushing. However, when applying a color gloss, it is a bit of a different application, and it's okay to take what we're applying and spread it further down in the hair, because when you're applying a color gloss, it's one of the few times that it's actually acceptable to use the exact same color from new growth through mid-shaft all the way through your ends, giving you one shiny, even balanced color. So here we go. So I'm going to outline my 4 quadrants, quickly working down the back of the head, coming over to the other side, And then I'm going to split these two halves also in half, giving me 4 quadrants. We're going to spin Whitney around. Now we're going to start on one of her front quadrants. So once you finish doing the first side, you're going to go back and double check the hairline, making sure that you got it nice and clean. And then before I move on to the other side, I like to take a towel and just wipe the hairline clean. Because no matter how polite our guests are, they never like to leave with that notorious stain around their hairline. With any color process that you're doing, if you wipe the hairline first before you move on to the next section, you'll actually catch it before it starts to set into the skin and guarantee they don't have that little hidden line. Making sure I didn't wipe anything off. Now I'm going to move to the other side. Just in case I ever missed anything as I was cleaning her hairline, one of the great things we have at Eufora are our clean skin wipes. These are great because one, they do have aloe in them. They also are 100% biodegradable. So we can actually take this and just double check her hairline so that we don't have any pesky stains. Okay, so now I'm going to move into the back. As much as I said earlier that your application when doing a color gloss definitely spreads a little further up than that normal half-inch new growth zone, we still want to make sure that we're taking clean sections and that they're not too thick. If, as we all have had that tendency to do, get a little sloppy and we take too thick of a section, we might not get even saturation and there'll be an empty spot and it'll look hollow, and we don't want that. I'm going to go back to my clean skin wipe, clean up the back of her ear. And let's go on to the last section. Okay, so her entire new growth application is completely applied, and immediately I'm going to start pulling through her midshaft and ends. The number one thing I want to make sure that I do is I want to refresh the ends with our Fortify. Our Fortify is a protein smoothie spray. One of the base ingredients in it is aloe vera. So between that aloe vera and the protein, it actually goes in and it starts to fill in any potholes in the hair. It balances and evens the porosity of the hair, giving me a more balanced canvas, guaranteeing that this color will take evenly no matter what section of the hair it is. So I like to take it, start in the lower part of the nape of the neck, kind of spritz onto the hair, and just work up in about 2-inch sections. I'm going to split this around her face and hold it away from her face. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, now that the Fortify has been applied, we're going to start pulling her color through. So I'm going to take my color, and I like to start my pull-through color application in the back of the head. The main reason is I want to work away from their face. I can lay everything down, and I won't accidentally take a strand of hair that has color pulled through and plop it onto her face. That would kind of be uncomfortable for her. So I'm going to take approximately 1.5 to 2 inch section. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place my hand down, take the color, apply the color as I go down. And then the important thing is I really feel when pulling color through, using your hands is important. So I like to make sure I've applied evenly. Take my fingers like scissors, no matter whether I'm doing a traditional color touch-up and pull through or a color gloss. And I like to melt or marry the two colors together to make sure that I'm not creating any line of demarcation. And then I use my thumbs, break the section open, make sure I have it saturated. I lay it down, I'm going to move my next section up. Smoothing it out, marrying it together. One of the risks you take if you take too thick of a section is you'll feel like, oh, I have great saturation and coverage. When you go back and look at it, there'll be a spot that's hollow or empty. And that really falls on us as colorists to make sure that we're taking thin enough sections and getting even saturation. Not sure about my saturation, so I'm actually flipping the hair back, just guaranteeing I'm getting the spot that I was concerned about. Okay. Once that back quadrant is done, I'm going to now work through the front, then go back to the other side and continue forward. So now we're going to move back to the other back quadrant. As much as some colorists feel that pulling color through is something we should do quickly, I actually like to take a minute and focus my time on it. If it's something that I miss or doesn't get even saturation, no matter how perfect her touch-up color is, the color they see the most as our guest is the rest of their hair. So it's that hair, that little extra couple seconds of detail really is going to make you go a long way. For me, hair color is everything I'm passionate about in our industry, and I am so OCD about hair color and what it does and how I apply it. I'd rather take 5 or 8 more minutes and apply it the way I am confident in than rush through and be like, about my end results. So I'm going to spin Whitney around. We're now done with her color application. I'm going to go through real quick with a tail comb. And I just want to open her hair up. We all know that oxygen processes color, so just lightly opening the hair up. So we're going to process Whitney at this point for 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, we're going to take her back to the shampoo bowl. We're going to rinse her until the water runs clear. We're also going to finish her up with our Beautifying Elixirs Moisture Intense line. One of the reasons I'm going to pick that is, for me, it is the lowest pH of all of our shampoos and especially our conditioners. By going in with an extremely low 3.5 pH conditioner is really going to help neutralize the hair completely out. And most importantly is really that low pH is going to help shut down the cuticle, locking her color in, or it's the first step to really locking her color in. So I'm going to double check her hairline, and then we're going to let her process, and Whitney and I will be back in about 20 to 25 minutes. We'll see you then. Okay, Whitney and I are back. We processed for our 20 minutes. We took her over to the shampoo bowl. We emulsified her hairline just to guarantee that there was no staining, and then we rinsed her until the water ran clear. After that, we shampooed her twice with our Beautifying Elixirs Moisture Intense shampoo, and then we followed that up with a Beautifying Elixirs Moisture Intense conditioner, and we left the conditioner sit on her hair for 5 minutes. We also used it to detangle her hair. It adds a lot of slip and really makes an easy comb out to do in the bowl. After our 5 minutes of doing that, we rinsed her again. We brought her here, we toweled her dry, and now we're going to start applying some product. One of my favorite new additions is the Beautifying Elixirs Elixir 1. It is this incredible conditioning treatment that is fantastic about adding slip and shine and soft moldability to the hair. In 1 to 2 pumps of that in your hands, I like to emulsify it into my hands and start by applying it throughout the base of the hair, working through the ends, and then coming around and really just gently working it through her entire hair. On top of that, I'm just going to use 2 products. 2 of my favorite Eufora products is our color locking system. I'm going to go in with our Sculpture Styling Glaze. I'm going to take approximately a little larger than a quarter size of the Sculpture Styling Glaze, and right on top I'm going to layer in about 5 or 6 pumps of our Illuminating Shine Mist. The combination of both of those create our color locking system because it's a combination of the certified organic pharmaceutical grade aloe vera and the squalene in the Illuminating Shine Mist combined really help lock and seal the cuticle down, protecting that hair from that initial fade off. So I'm going to massage that through her hair. Once her hair has been applied with the color locking system, then it's the appropriate time to comb her hair through. Think about how that color locking seals that cuticle down. By doing that, it actually helps as a natural detanglant, so it's easier to get our comb through, minimizing any snarls or snaggles. Okay, Whitney and I are ready to go and blow dry. We're going to step away and we'll be back in just a couple minutes. Ready? Okay, so Whitney and I are back. Whitney started out with kind of like a faded out end of summer color. She had a new growth between a 6 and a 7. Her demarcation was right at a level 5, and then her ends faded nice and softly off to a 7. One of the things that she shared with me is she wanted her hair richened up. She was looking for something a little bit deeper, and she really expressed when I asked her during my consultation, what was your favorite color you've ever been? And she said that she feels the prettiest and looks the best in violets. So that's why we ended up enhancing our formula with that violet. So I'll take you back, and if we remember the formula we used was that 4.73, that medium brown, blue, violet, gold, mixed with a 4.62. That 4.62 is a medium brown, red with some violet, and we also added 1/2 of a gram of our violet intensifier. But remember, before we did that, we actually put the kite pattern in. That kite pattern is a pattern that fell on her part line. And what we did is, remember, we took our diagonal slices. If you can take a look here, you can see how there's all this rich, deep, but still dimension throughout her hair. You can really see where the highlights were from that kite pattern. It really picked up a lot of that reflection and that red and violet tone from the color gloss. And I think it's absolutely beautiful as we go through. Let's comb her out. Just spin around. You can just see how it added all this nice pretty tone. Remember, we talked about we put in 14 foils, nice and simple, 3 through each side in the front and 4 through each side in the back. And I did that on purpose so we could lower down that last or fourth foil on each side, giving us some more of these pieces that are popping out down here. One of the things that I love is right here around her face, you can see where a couple of these are popping out and giving her a little bit of a halo or a highlighted face framing right around the front. Okay, so it's time to take off Whitney's cape and take a closer look at her color.